Good morning, Tottenham fans. Now, I'm probably going to upset probably a lot of Ange out fans right now, but I just want to say it makes no logical sense whatsoever to sack the manager right now. First of all, it'd make Levy look completely stupid because we've gone through 2.5 months with no players and loss after loss after loss, and now going out of 2 cup competitions and still no sacking. So sacking him right now would make him look stupid. And also, when we're on the cusp of getting all of our players back, so Postecoglou can rotate and maybe start playing his system how he wants to play a system, and then decide to sack him, I think would be ridiculous. It would be a massive mistake. Now, on the other hand, if Pochettino, see, look, I'm talking about the X again. If Postecoglou now gets his players back, starts performing again, beats the likes of Man United, beats the likes of Manchester City again at home, because they're both at home, and then we get into European games and start winning them with his players back, then fair enough. But if he gets all his player back and we put in a lackluster performance against Man United, a lackluster performance against Man City, and lose both games, and then lose the first leg of the Europa League or whatever, however it goes, and we're still just as bad, then there's no excuses anymore. And I will hold my hands up and say, look, he's done his best, he's tried, but there's just that he would run out of excuses by then. I don't think there'd be one fan in the world that would say he's good enough. But we need to let him show us that he's good enough with the right players back. And not only that, on top of having his players back, he now has got extended players that he knows he can trust, that he didn't know he could trust at the beginning of the season. Players like Jed Spence that has come through now. He knows he can trust him. He knows he can rotate him now. He's even put him in the Europa League squad. You've got Archie Gray now. He was just an 18-year-old that was going to get minutes in the Europa League in the group stages, and well, it's not group stages anymore, the league phase. And but now he knows he can rely on Archie Gray. He now knows he can rely on Bergvall as well. There's probably a couple of players now that he thought he could rely on that he probably now can't rely on. But again, we will only see when these players have had some rest and they actually get a chance to rest for a week and play a game with high intensity. Because when we're coming up now against Man United, Postecoglou said he's rested 3 players. He's rested players for 3 days, the ones that were playing for 2.5 months non-stop. So he's rested them, let them go home. 3 days rest this week, only minimal training for them. And then obviously the players that are coming back, they're training. And then we've got a game against Man United. So I want to see high intensity, all out attack, like Postecoglou likes to play, and try and beat United like we did last time when we had our players fresh. They demolished Man United. It could have been 7 or 8. It really could, and that's not exaggerating. And that was on their turf. So if we see that again, then we're back. We're back to how he wants to be. And then fingers crossed, no more injuries occur. So then we've got another week after that, and we've got Ipswich away. Now, we will see what happens when we play Ipswich, and it's going to be on their turf this time. So it's going to be even more difficult than it was last time. But this time, we're not going to be playing a European game in between. Let's see if our high intensity levels, let's see if Ipswich can deal with that this time. Because if we get 2 league wins in a row, which will accumulate to, if you include the Brentford game, that's 3 league games in a row. If we get to that standard, going into more Europa League games, then yeah, we should just hold on to Ange and then just see how far he can take us in Europa League. Now, don't get me wrong. If performances don't improve, we go out of the Europa League, then he hasn't got a leg to stand on. You wouldn't need me to start calling for him to be gone. You wouldn't need others to call him for, because Levy would have no choice then. Another thing I want to say is, if you did get rid of Ange now, it would be a mistake because there's nobody to come in to take his place. Stop thinking about Pochettino. Pochettino has got a project at USA. He's going to be the home nation at a World Cup. Do you think he really want to come to the toxic Spurs right now? No, he's not going to come back. Iriola's not going to leave a high-flying Bournemouth halfway through a season, well, over halfway through a season, to come to manage for Daniel Levy. who's not going to help him or back him. So there's lots of managers out there that won't come to Spurs, especially right now. There might be a few that come in the summer, but right now, no. We will be left with Ryan Mason. Now, hand on your heart, would you rather have Ryan Mason taking us through to the rest of the season, or would you rather have Ange? And mine's 100% Ange. 26 years experience versus none. That's what I'm saying. So as much as all you Ange outers want Ange out, there's literally no logical reason to get rid of him, especially now. I mean, like maybe December, January time, when we was losing all those games, that might have been the best time to say, right, we need to get rid of him. We're still in all the cups. We can push forward, get a new manager in and try and push for the cup competitions. But it's too late. We're out of the cups now, apart from the Europa League. You might as well give him to the end of the season. And if you still don't think this guy is going to be the guy for you at the end of the season, then fine. But at the moment, he's had so much unluckiness with his injuries. It's unreal. And the amount of people that said it's Postecoglou's fault that all these players are injured. Some of it is when he brought Van der Ven and Romero back too early. But I'd say 50% of these injuries are knocks. This has nothing to do with fitness. He's also said in training, we hardly train because we've got games every two a week. So he hardly ever trains hard. A sports scientist has recently come out and said on the Oso Spurs channel, which is a good channel, check it out, that Pochettino trained his players harder than Postecoglou does. So, you know, there's always two sides to the story. And I just think sacking him right now would just be ridiculous. After letting him go through all that for 2.5 months with 13 available players, with no choice of availability, no choice of being able to rotate, no choice of resting, to have him on the cusp of bringing his players back and having a full squad and being able to say, look, what I can do with a full squad, it would be ridiculous sacking him now. And not only that, imagine if the new manager came in and he came in with fully fit squad and started winning games. It would be a false narrative to say that he's a better manager, because he had more armory than Ange did. Now, and then when you have that argument as well about, well, we lost games with a full squad. Well, everyone has. Arsenal lost to Bournemouth with a full squad. I think they dropped points against Brighton with a full squad. Man City have dropped lots of points with their full squad, even at the beginning of the season. We had Man United have got nowhere near amount of injuries as us, and they're losing nearly every week. Yeah, so this notion of we lost with a full squad, of course we're going to lose games. We're not going to win every single game. And then I know it was poor against Ipswich and it was poor against Crystal Palace. I understand that. But you've got to understand as well, we had games before those games. Few days before. They've got a week to prepare, and if they play a low block style of play and they've got higher intensity than us because we've just played a few days ago, then of course we've got a chance of losing those games. So I don't know who Crystal Palace just beat recently, but I think they just beat Aston Villa recently, because Aston Villa played in Europe just before. But no one's saying Emery is a poor manager. So, you know, it happens. But let's just see. And by the way, when we had our first full team, full squad, we was rotating the European team, and we was playing some fantastic, brilliant football, by the way. We smashed Aston Villa 4-1, smashed Man United 3-0, smashed Manchester City 4-0, smashed West Ham 4-1, smashed Everton 4-0. We're forgetting how good we actually were. And even when we lost games like the game against Newcastle, we were battering Newcastle on their turf, by the way, which is not easy to do. We battered Leicester and ended up with a draw. So it wasn't like we were poor when we had all our players. All the statistics as well covers that up, because the statistics proved that we had one of the best defenses in the league, one of the best attacks in the league, one of the least amount of chances against us. So it wasn't like we were poor. So I'm just saying, sacking him now would be pointless. Let him prove to us what he can do with more players available to him. And if he fails, he fails. But if he succeeds, isn't that a good thing for all of us? It's not about being right or wrong. It's about Tottenham succeeding, isn't it? Surely.